to keep things rolling with our first interview guest of the evening. Please welcome, he is one half of the Bowery Boys New York City History Podcast, Mr. Greg Young.
I have lived long for this day to face you face to face, Mr. Moses.
You know, I'm glad because I have never listened to a podcast, but I know from what Evan has told me that you've done quite a few episodes about me. Is that not true?
You come up. You're a recurring, I would even say, a foil on the show, based on your prominence in New York City history and all the things that you've done to it and for it. You're a complicated legacy.
I believe I was the topic for your 100th episode. Is that
right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Very special.
One of our biggest shows, one of our, and in that show, as I'm sure that, hopefully people still do today, they wrestle with your legacy of like, how bad were you? How good were you for the city? That type of thing. So we played a little cat and mouse in that, where we kind of saw both sides of your story.
I believe that you asked the question, did he give New York the tools to thrive, or did he pave the way for its fragmentation?
That's a good sentence. I wrote that.
Yeah,
That was like 14 years ago, 13 years ago. So I mean, that's a good question today. Like, if people should, when they complain and bitch when they're on the FDR or whatever, they should also think like, but I do enjoy my parks.
Wow. Oh, it looks like we finally have a semi-friendly guest. Because it seems to me you've done a lot of episodes about me. Thirsty much?
Yes.
Because you also did one covering my role during the Great Depression and how I expertly leveraged the New Deal to benefit New York.
Well, it's like when you watch a movie and like the first 20 minutes, the boyfriend doesn't seem so bad, but starts to sort of do like weird things on the left and the right. But like, he buys her flowers. So that's kind of what you did in New York City in the late 30s. And I think it's because you had a lot of federal money. And of course, you were working with Mayor LaGuardia.
The Little Flower.
The Little Flower. And the city was in need of a lot of infrastructure changes. And you loved your cars.
I do.
And everyone was pushing you towards that. So you're like, I'm going to give you, baby, you want cars, I'm going to give them to you. Right?
So you're saying I sort of love-bombed the city in another way.
You loved it so much that you smothered it to death.
We all love a car. I'm sure. Quick question. Hey, whoa. Let's remember I did some good things. Who here came to the theater today in an Uber or a Lyft? Okay. Okay.
What? That is so nice to see. I'm sorry. That's like breaks. I almost want to cry. I hate cars.
You'd think after 5 shows I may have learned my audience a little bit. Okay, so that hurts my next point. But so let's talk a little more generally, because the show is about landmarks and preservation. Your show also covered the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission.
Yes,
Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that.
So that was 1965 is when that law officially, although it took many years, like there's lots of like little laws that built up towards it, mostly thanks to your legacy. People are like, okay, the city's going to be gone if we don't start like defending ourselves here. But in 1965, the city finally decided, after the Penn Station is like usually, but it was really a lot of buildings. It was led up to Penn Station. When Penn Station was gone, people decided, everything's going to be torn down. Like, is nothing sacred? Because truly, that was one of New York's most impressive architectural wonders. So when it was knocked down, I think that kind of like hyper speeded up like all of the landmarking laws that were happening. So by the 1965, the law passed earlier. That was the commission that started kind of to enact the law, essentially. So that's, what is that, 60 years ago.
And Penn Station, which was, trains. Come on. It was knocked down to build Madison Square Garden. That's what the show Mad Men told me.
Well, first of all, there was this subterranean, like Penn Station was still there. It was just turned into this, like, a series of mole tunnels, basically, for many, many decades.
Where else will the mole people live?
And then Madison Square Garden, which at that time was actually in Hell's Kitchen, or like in the 50s, they decided that actually that was too beautiful of a building. Let's build a big muffler on top of the space where the old Penn Station is. So but at the time, that was a marvel of architecture. And so it was seen as the city moving forward. We weren't looking back. People aren't taking trains anymore. That old-fashioned Beaux-Arts, where's the glass, right? I mean, who needs sidewalks? Who needs plazas, right?
Not me. My car can't drive through a plaza. I am curious. So you're obviously a big history nerd. Let's be honest.
I'll take it.
How did that start for you? Was there a moment when you were a kid? Was there a historical period that sort of awoke that love of history in you?
Well, I mean, it's always been with me, but I do have to say it was when, in the late 90s, I moved to the Lower East Side. I lived on East Broadway. I guess that's close to what we call Dime Square today. But anyway, back then there were no dimes. But I realized that, I come from a background, an evangelical Christian background. All of a sudden, I was living around, Orthodox history, Jewish history around me. I was living above a synagogue. I was like, why am I living here and not knowing more about this? This is crazy. So then, on my own personal journey, I learned all about the neighborhood. And Tom Myers, who I did the podcast with, he lived 3 blocks away and was kind of having a similar quandary in a different way. He lived more in a tenement. He was really interested in the whole late 19th century waves of immigration. So we were geeking out about that for years. And then, one day in 2007, I pulled out my, you remember when Macs, they looked like toys that were white? I had a little white laptop. Glossy white, like a Mattel laptop. And around that time, 2007, iTunes had recently debuted this thing, had iPod, and there was this new thing called a podcast. And mostly back then it was
Ricky
kind of
Gervais.
Well, I mean, on its best.
Yeah.
It was usually people who wanted to be Ricky Gervais. So we were just why don't we just do this, and we'll just talk out into the wind, and who cares if anyone listens, right? But as we got kind of more confident in discussing and talking about the history, the show got better, and then the show got discovered, and then it sort of went from there. Thank you.
So when your Aunt Kathy comes to New York,
yes,
do you have an Aunt Kathy?
No one visits me in my family. They're all from the Ozarks. But I will imagine an Aunt Kathy. I have friends who have many Kathys.
Right, of course. Everyone has a Kathy. We all have a Kathy.
Karens, but that's another story.
Is there a place that you like to take people? Is there a historic area of the city that you think is sort of undersung that is nice to visit and go see?
Well, for someone who's just in the city, obviously, don't take them to Times Square unless you are forced to. But I still think that the most magical, history-dense area of New York that it's also fun to go to is still Greenwich Village.
Yeah.
I mean, it will. I don't think that'll never change, honestly. I mean, Lower Manhattan has so much history that goes all the way back to the Dutch, but sometimes it's not fun to go down to the financial district. But it is I love wandering around, but if Aunt Kathy's not going to enjoy that. So I would say Greenwich Village, in Brooklyn, you might, I don't know if Kathy's going to like this, but honestly, Coney Island is one of the best historical districts. I know you love Coney Island. You love when people have fun, don't you?
Ding, ding. Look, Aunt Kathy can't move quite like she used to, but you could get her to Coney Island. I am curious, obviously we talked about at the top of the show that there's going to be some casinos in New York. It's unknown how many and where. I don't know if
there could be dozens, in 10 years.
So I don't know. Do you know anything about that project? And the Luna Park is sort of a historic place.
Well, what I will say is they are constantly, that's including you, constantly trying to reinvent and pave over Coney Island.
Yeah.
Because the reason that we enjoy Coney Island is always, every generation, there's a certain amount of bureaucracy who's like, that is wasted land, all those stupid rides, where are the high rises, where are it's beachfront property, right? I mean, like in the 19th century, early 20th century, the waterfront in New York City, it was like, you didn't want to be there. It was all work, it was industry, it was like, sooty kind of places. And then like all of a sudden, like today you go to the waterfront in Williamsburg and around Long Island City, and it's just like skyscrapers. So I'm imagining that people are like, why can't we do that with Coney Island, right? Like, what a waste. Look at all this housing we could build out there for, billionaires and peditaires, whatever. But the thing is like Coney Island is one of a kind. It's one of the most important historical places in America, to me. I mean, it really embodies a certain like destination of of the working class in the late 19th, early 20th century. So much culture has actually come out of Coney Island. So much has influenced our culture because of Coney Island. So I don't want to see it changed at all. If they have a casino, I want it to have a tattoo parlor. I want it to have a strip club. I mean, if they're going to do casino, then just go all the way to the bottom and just make it that kind of a casino. But that's not what they're going to do.
Oh, they might have a strip club. It wouldn't surprise me if they had a strip club. All right, so we'll ask you one final question for this first half. So we do have a mayoral election coming up.
Sure.
Obviously, mayors impact the city. Do you think that if Zohran Mamdani is elected, that will have any sort of impact on New York preservation?
So, I mean, I'm going to be Debbie Downer here because I've studied mayoral, history for, my whole career. Mayors do not have that much power in New York City, especially. So, to me, you want to elect someone who's going to present a bright face for the future. So I feel like only one person's really running with that in mind. I don't mean to point out. It's like the
bright face of the future or the hideous visage of the past. Your choice, New York.
But when I see right.
All right. Well, so guys, we are going to take a very quick 5-minute intermission. We're going to come back. We're going to bring Greg back out. We're going to have other guest comedians. So please get an empanada, get a drink. We'll see you in 5 minutes. Thank you.